Hi everyone, my name is Dennis and I'm back here for the second part of lecture 1 about classes. So we talked about Java language, the formatting of it, the syntax a little bit, touched on it. We also talk about why we program and how it's important in our lives. So now we're just going to dive into some of the terminology in Java. So first off, we have classes. So classes are not like our normal classes where we go to a classroom, we study. Classes are openings for a code you're going to write. It's also called a header. So we have two types of classes. We have public class main, public static void main string args. And what is the difference, right? One is public static void main, and then you have this parentheses, right? And then there's these weird string args, okay? What this line, the second one does, right, is it's a main method. And what a main method is where you write all your code, where you produce all your output for your reader. So everyone will have to memorize this when they eventually code. Public, static, void, main, string args. String args, main indicating main method, right? And this cannot be changed. This must be hardcore memorized. So if I want to write, like, if I want to print out, which we will learn soon, I want to print out, I want some cookies, right? You need to write it inside of this class header because it's the main method. Number one is a different type of class. So a class is basically a redundant way of repeating code repetitively. So what I mean by that, sorry, it might be confusing, but if I want to write, I want to eat one cookie 10 times, I would just pull up another class, okay? I would just write it and then I would call the class into the main method, right? So it might be confusing, but we'll touch on it later. But what happens is we're going to have a public class. Okay, these blue words indicate that they are fixed. They cannot change. And then the red word main, you can name it whatever you want. So if you want to name it car, you can name it car. If you want to name it muffin, you can name it muffin. So you can name it a class name, whatever you want. But you just have to remember that this number 2 statement, line 2, you need a hardcore memorize. You can't change this. Even though this main and string are red, this is super, super, super important. It's the main line for you to start. And if you can see, for example, if I go back, sorry about that, let's clear the drawing. If you see here, we have a public class, and inside your public class, you would have a public static void main. Notice that this is the exact same as our line 2, right? Our line 2, if we go back on the slide, public static void main. But at the same time here, public class, this is an opening of a whole new class. It's a header, right? Public class main. Main is changed into hello world, right? Because we want to print out hello world. And so these are genuine classes where you just try to open up your code so that the computer knows, okay? So let's just quickly go into print commands. What print commands are is you want to give your reader an output. And when you want to give your reader an output, you need to write down a print command, right? And so there are two types of ways we can write print command. We can write it as system.out.println value, system.out.print value. And you might wonder, what's the difference? I can notice that there's an ln here, but there's no ln here. But the difference is, for example, if we say ln, we're trying to, the next line of code that we write, we're going to have an output in a new line, right? But if we only do print, it'll continue in the same line, okay? And so the terminology we call is system because we're in the system. We're printing out into the system. ln means line. So it's like considering a new line, right? And here we don't have a new line, okay? And so we also call value a string literal. Basically what it means is like whatever is in the value, it's called a string literal. And one more tip that I didn't write on this slide is your value has to be in parentheses. So if you want to say hi, then I will write in parentheses system. I will copy paste here, system dot out dot print. Okay, I'll show you guys in the IDE later, but right now it's really hard to write. So system.out.println, okay, hi. And what this will print is hi. But remember, our semicolons acts as period. So we need a semicolon after every single statement that we write. Okay, it's very important until there are some exceptions that we will learn later. For now, it's a semicolon. Okay. So here we have system.out.println hi, and it will print out hi for us. So let's test it in the IDE. We have system.out.println hi. So we're gonna press execute, which is running, right? So we're gonna run. It's gonna run. Hi. So here it's just saying it compiled, and here it's hi. So if I say system.out.println hi, Bob, what happens is print line, right? So there should be on different lines. And notice that they're on different lines. But if I change this to only system.out.print, notice that they will be on the same line. So notice that there are two different ones, right? These are our string literals. We have ln and l and no ln, and notice that they can be on different lines or not. So remember, hardcore remember, system.out.print is your beginning for a print command. Your ln is if you want a new line, and your value is a string literal. Make sure you have double quotations and then a semicolon at the end. So with that being said, let's talk about some errors. So when we have an error, it's basically saying we wrote our code incorrectly. So for example, if we have system.out.print, right? So if we have this and we forget to write parentheses, we just do this, hi. We don't have parentheses. What the Java thing, the computer will think is like, oh my God, wait, why aren't there any parentheses? I can't go further. So it'll go something like here in this black screen, it'll say some weird thing and it'll say error. There's an error, which in Java we call syntax errors. Syntax errors is when you type something wrong and it's grammatically incorrect in the Java language. And we can also call them bugs, right? Which leads us to the term debugging. Debugging is going back through your code and going like, oh my God, I forgot a quotation mark here. So you're gonna add these quotation marks to make sure that this system will read it correctly and just print out normally hi with no issue. And that's why we want to be careful and watch out, okay? There's no harm in having an error. It won't give your computer a virus or anything. It's just that your computer won't be able to read and see like, oh, what is this line of code? But if you wrote it correctly, you will be able to see, oh, this is just printing hi, right? So your computer doesn't have a brain. It's just reading your language and inputting it out. It's not a human behind us trying to compile. And so that will do it for part 2 of the lecture. Thanks for tuning in.